I will call to order the February 10th meeting of the Village of Wesley Chapel. If you would rise, and I'm going to ask these two gentlemen to introduce themselves and tell us what pack they're from, and then to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
My name is Wyatt, and I am in Pack 46. My name is Wilson, and I'm in Pack 46.
We'll wait for you to start.
We're getting ready.
Myself.
No, just right there. Salute.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing and pray with me. Lord God, we just give you thanks for all the many blessings, for the blessings of this community, for the blessings of Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts, Lord, their leaders and all that they do. Lord, we just pray that in the meeting tonight, you got us in a way that would bring honor to you. We pray in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
All right, that leads us to public comment. We have one person signed up. Did anybody else want to sign up before? The way it goes is you have 3 minutes to come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Robert Committee. I live at 809 Bradford Place, Wesley Chapel, North Carolina. I was at the last meeting, and I know you recently enacted code enforcement officer in December, which I think is a great thing. While I was sitting here, she asked about if she's going to Apple, Berry, and Cherry Street, and she saw all the violations, and she wanted to address those violations. The board took like a vote and said not to address other situations. I'd like the board to reconsider that. They have come to my neighborhood last couple weeks ago. We have several problem houses with multitudes of junk cars, garbage, lawns high all over. She addressed some of those and people started cleaning them, but there are other ones in the neighborhood that really need to be addressed. I'm asking the board to reconsider that position of allowing her, especially in this day and age. It's hard enough to get people to want to do more than what they're assigned. Obviously, she was looking to do more than what she was assigned to do. And sitting at this meeting, I was here the whole time, there's a lot of things that the staff from the hall does as far as, and even I saw several things get like asked of them, delegation to go to the county to see what events they're having and whatnot. And they've always done a good job. I've come for permits. They've gotten me permits really quick, very responsive. You know, I know it's not that major problem to a lot of people. We don't have an HOA in our neighborhood. So it's either you're going to start fighting with your neighbors, which nobody really wants. And a lot of people are good people. They just have a mess and they don't realize that it's wrong. And I've been in the neighborhood 18 years. Some have moved in only recently. And some houses are rental homes. For years it has been a thorn. And the one rental house, and I'll give you the address, 906 Pilgrim Forest Drive. They've had lawn this high, weeds growing this high. You could look 2 foot, sometimes 2.5 foot, still there. It's been there all year. There's several cars there that aren't registered, and there's some garbage outside. And you have to drive by that house to get to these other houses that she addressed. And it's kind of like, if she's there, why would you not want her to address the situations that are in violation of our ordinances? So I'd ask you to reconsider that. And, you know, I felt it kind of undermined her and kind of, she's trying to do a job and she was kind of pushed off. And I don't know if I would have handled it so well if I was in her position. And that's what I'd like to say.
So you're making an official complaint about 906?
Yeah, I'll make an official complaint.
So we are complaint-based, just so you know. So if you have any complaints in your neighborhood, You don't have to give your name, you're more than welcome to call, and we will send somebody out to look at that.
Okay,
So if
thank
you want
you.
to make a list, you're welcome to email or call.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, so anybody else for public comment before I close that out and move on? All right, so that leads us to additions, deletions, and adoption of agenda. I need to add item 10B. Lavella is here to talk to us about Mayflower, our address on Mayflower with the issues. And so that'll be item 10B. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add or change or delete?
Yes, I do. Madam Mayor, not sure where we need to put it, but I'd like for us to get an update on the Piedmont natural gas easement.
We can put that under planning. We can put that under planning. We can pick item C.
I would like the item 4B, budget amendment number 17, year alignment to be discussed at the council, so I'd like to do that in the finance report.
Any other changes?
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I don't think. Take your motion back.
There was one change on the minutes from last month.
Okay.
I think we need to check. So I'm assuming we want to move 4A into another category.
Is it a big change?
That's not a big change. No.
Is
What
it-
is it?
Can we leave it there?
Leave it, just say what you want. Change it.
Let's go. Page 8. About midway through, the first event that the committee will be hosting is the spring fling. It gives the date. And it says she is actively making plans and details to be presented at the council's next meeting. I'm assuming she is Mrs. LaCroix or
Yes.
maybe it's he. It should be.
No, this is just a crawl.
Yeah. All right. We need to add that sentence in.
That's Aaron LaCroix. My apologies.
Yes.
Whoever she is, yes.
Thank you.
One other thing on the.
That's already been corrected, all the bolding.
Oh, that's already been corrected.
It's already been corrected.
So we will change page 8 to say Ms. McCroy instead of she. And is that it? Now is there a motion to approve the one item left on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda as amended and edited.
Oh, wait, sorry. All right, then that leads us, second,
So,
all in favor? All right. Then do I have a motion to approve the one item left on the consent agenda?
so motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous? All right, that brings us to the finance officer report.
Okay. If you look up behind you at the screen, please. This is a snapshot of revenues from July 1st through January 31st, 2025. This is budget versus actual. Now that we're a little bit through the year, I wanted to show you, hold on, I went to the print menu. Okay, I just wanted you to see that, let me get this going. Okay, so can you see up here where it says tax revenues? We have $224,710 that have come in. 267 was our budget, 267,518. We're at 84%. But today we had $32,000 come in, so we're actually getting much closer to our goal of having, we need 100%, of course. Our shared receipts are at 122 compared to a budget of 418. Again, we've only gotten 3/4 of our shared utilities revenues, and our ABC revenues have not come in. Interest earned, you can see we're at 80% there, and that's only going to grow higher with The significant moves that I've made initially from one bank to another, now to the capital management group, we're going to really hit high on interest earned, which is going to give the village a lot of additional funds this year. Next year, maybe not so, because we're going to anticipate that 4 to 5% margin. So while the interest projection will be high, we should meet it, but we won't exceed it in this manner with the what I've done with this. If you look at appropriations, we have, the 1.392 in appropriations. That money includes the money for the dam that we're supposed to be working on. But the government has put a hold on grants, FEMA grants, things that have been awarded. The state has turned around and put a stay or a hold, and I may not be saying it right, but one group has said no, the other group has put a hold on it. So FEMA is really nervous now about monies that we're going to get. We're assured on one hand that nothing's been affected, but yet we hear all these other things, so there's instability there. So we put out a bid back in November, and we only got 2 bids. We didn't award it. We agreed to wait. The TTG group came along when we did the breach. We had 3 bids to do the breach. One of them was roughly $40,000. The others were, I think, like $150 and $225. They were significantly higher. So I spoke with Amy Black, and she updated the specs for me. I spoke with TTG, asked him to just give me an informal quote on what he could possibly do. I'm thinking that it's very possible, probable, I don't know, that he may come into the money that we already have, the $350,000 that we have to do the dam. And if he can come in at $350,000 and do the dam, the question is, would we want to go ahead and do it with the $250,000 OSMB grant we have and the $100,000 we put away? Because the $250,000 OSMB grant that we have, we only have until October of this year to spend that money, and we have to give it back. So unless we just come up with an arbitrary project, yes, sir.
And that money is not in question. We've already collected that money, it's in the bank.
It's not ours, it's a liability. Meaning if we don't spend it, we have to give it back.
Right. But there's...
It's here. We have it.
We've got it, yeah.
Yes. So we have the $250,000 OSMB and the $100,000. So if TTG gives me back an informal quote, and I see that it's possible that we actually can do the dam for $350,000, under $400,000, I'd like the council to go ahead and give me the authority to rebid it. We can rebid the dam. We have to go through the procedures. I only have to get 1 quote in. We'd like to get 3. We'll still go with the lowest provider. But the point is that the lowest provider, I'm hoping, will be the very, very, very lowest under that amount and get our dam fixed.
Who, if anyone, is pushing us from the state to do the repairs on the dam by a specific date or time?
It's the conditions of the grant.
No,
It's
I'm
not, the repairs on the dam, we're not being pushed to do that. We have a time limit on the $250,000 that we have.
I understand the time limit on the funds, but what I'm saying is the state pushing us on a timeline for when we have to have the repairs done, regardless of whether it's paid for with grant money or with taxpayers' money out of contingency?
No,
Okay.
I'm not aware. Mayor, are you aware of a deadline? No. The only concern I have is the deadline for the funds. And and because TTG came in at $39,000 to everybody else's $150 and $250, and they did a third of the dam, what could they do the rest of it for? So I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. We'll see.
My question centered around more, do we go ahead and do the repairs to the dam using funds we have available and let the grant potentially reimburse us after the fact? Or do we just leave it as is and wait till the government figures out their grant program?
They won't reimburse us after the fact because the work has to be done within the contract date. So once they say they're going to award us the money, then we bid the project, then we do the contract. If the contract is outside of the award date, meaning before it, it won't be included.
But they have to understand that they're the ones holding up the funds, not us holding up the work.
And we have to understand that they make the rules. I mean, they don't care. So we basically have $250. If we can get this dam done under $450, I'm asking, can I go ahead, rebid the dam? I'll keep council updated. And then if it comes in reasonable, I'll be talking back and forth with Mayor Fuller. She'll be communicating one-on-one with you guys. And if we decide to go ahead and bid it, she'll give me the go-ahead. I'm not authorizing or asking you to authorize. I'm just saying, will you give me the authority with Mayor Fuller to go ahead and bid this out if we see that we can get it done within the funds that we have from the OSMB grant 250 and the 100,000 we were planning to spend anyway.
One follow-up question. The bids that we received already, what's the timeline as far as once they put the shovel in the dirt before completion?
I don't
30
have.
days, 60 days, 90 days, is it going to take 6 months?
Well, they did that whole breach in a weekend, so I'm imagining that it probably won't take more than a month, and that I think that's a long time. Anybody have any experience in that might know? I don't know, but they did this breach so quickly, I'm assuming that the rest of the dam isn't going to take that much time.
Demo is one thing, rebuilding and getting the certifications and everything is something else. And I don't know how much of a time rush we have on this to,
The only pressure is up to 250. There's not a pressure from FEMA or anything else.
And once they start it, we'll claim the 250 and we'll be good to go.
but the timeline factors in with the decision.
Not really. Only the October deadline for the 250.
Right.
Well, I think you said PTG's bid was 39.
TTG did the breach for $39,000 and we're getting that money back. So
And the other offers were 100.
it was like 150 and 225. I mean, it was a huge, they weren't even close.
That's my question. Were they bidding apples to apples, or were they?
The same set of specs.
Really?
It's always the same set of specs, yes.
Yeah, but I'm still concerned that it's that it's going to be more than 450. Did he give us a timeline for when he would be back about the informal?
He sent me an email today and said that he got it and he was getting with his team and he'd get back with me as quickly as possible.
It just makes me nervous with that big a difference. It's like, are they leaving something out? Have they not thought of something? And
Well, they haven't given their number for that yet, so I don't think we can.
but I mean, this difference that they had with doing
So
the
did they,
breach.
did that company that you think, I'm sorry, rattling off too many names too quickly, did they submit a bid for the bid we left in November?
I don't think they submitted a bid. We got it from 2 other companies. I don't think they knew about it at that time.
So they just.
And so I made them aware when they came up and did this job that we would be bidding the dam and to be looking out for it. They did not know.
I don't think we need to rebid it until we get their informal document.
Well, that's what I'm saying is if they come back with an informal bid of $250,000, yeah, maybe we can get that done under 400. But if they come back and say it's going to be 750, 800, then we wait to see what FEMA's going to do. And we find another use for that 250 if our deadline comes closer. Be thinking about it.
So because they missed the bid deadline, you want to see what the informal bid is, and if it's significantly lower, then you're asking us to approve rebidding the entire thing
To all
to everybody.
my bidders.
Right.
We're not looking at missing a bid deadline.
I didn't say anything about deadline. I was laying out the sequence.
I
That's
think
what we have. I mean, didn't we close the bid?
Well, yeah, but now what she's asking is that if this, I'm trying to reiterate where we're at, right? We want to see these people that did not do the first bid, they come in lower, they're asking us to approve to rebid the thing to all bidders.
they're not asking that. That's the
No,
law.
That's what you're asking us. And that's it, is we get this informal bid, and then if it is lower
If it's
than
within
the
reach.
others, if it's lower than the others,
No,
then we
ma'am.
could rebid the entire thing.
No, ma'am. We're not getting anybody. We're just trying to see if it's within reach to
Well,
do
that's
it with
the
our money.
informal bid.
But we're not getting anybody else's bid. And if it is within reach, then we're just going to tuck that aside and
In
bid.
reach is just an arbitrary number. We get their informal bid, if it's less than the other 2 bids.
We don't know what the other two.
There are no other 2 bids.
Well, we have 2
Okay,
bids.
no, ma'am. The first bid is done. And we didn't get enough bids to make a choice. That's done. Now the requirement is we rebid, and we don't have to have 3. We just have to rebid it. So we bid it once. We didn't meet the requirements of 3. That's done. There's no compare. We didn't keep them and hold on to them to get more. They have to rebid it a second time. So all we're trying to do is considering that this is a second fresh bid, we just want to know if we think this guy can do it low, we'll put the bid fairly out there for everybody. If these two guys bid again where I think they will, they'll come in here, and I'm hoping that our guy will come down here, but he will not see these bids. He does not know what these bids are. He does not know what the other bids were. We don't know. We just gave them back. We didn't look at them. We don't open them. So we got 2 bids. We couldn't use them because we had to have 3 the first time. The second time, we're just saying, hey, since you were so much lower, what do you think in the ballpark you might can do here? And if he says, we can do it for $350, then I'm going to say, okay, council has given me authority. I'm going to bid it. Submit your bid by 10 o'clock on Tuesday. So company A, B, C, D, E, and F can come, or company A and B, or just company A. It doesn't matter. We can go with whatever we get because we've already bid it once.
Okay, Kathy, let me ask this question. If this is not hypercritical on the timeline, can we push the pause button on this and give you another month to get all these questions answered?
I think we should get the informal bid before we.
We just need to get the informal bid, right? These, yeah. Do you have anything to add to that?
I think we just need to get the informal bid and then put it back on the agenda for March and talk about it then.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. It's
Right,
not that
because-
far away.
Right, because when we can do that, it's just these bids are on qualifications too. So, we go with the lowest qualified bidder, and the TTG that's bidding is the one that just did the work that we were all rating about 2 months ago with the breach. They did pictures, they came back, they fixed the stone after the storm damaged them. They were clean, they were neat, their work was
They did a
exceptional.
nice job, but I think council wants to see it.
With
See
the
the
town.
informal bid first.
Tonight's earlier.
Can I give them the informal bid like that? I just want to kind of see if he's going to hit the ballpark. I can't present that to them until I formally bid it, or what can I do with that?
There's no real rules against the informal bids being confidential, right, or sealed, right? There's no advertisement for sealed bids.
Well, if it
So it's
becomes a
public
formal
information.
bid, if it
Public
becomes,
information once it's submitted, right? And
yeah.
you're not going back through any kind of sealed or formal bidding
A
process.
formal construction bid, I think it's much higher than that. A formal is over $500,000. So if he goes over $500,000, then we would
Yeah,
sort of
it's
have to
already
treat it
known.
like a formal. But we're hoping that if he comes under in the ballpark, I'll share it with the mayor. If he's up there, then I'm just going to tell her it was too high. So we're really not looking to review this one. We're just looking to see if it's in the ballpark. If it is, we'll rebid it. We still don't have to issue a contract for anything. We can still wait for the FEMA money to come in if we're not happy with anybody.
So we'll just put that item back on the agenda for,
For my preference, yes.
I'll ask the first stupid question, but, I'll preface that by saying it's a stupid question. We do not do a lot, with my business, we don't do a lot of work with municipalities.
I was gonna say there's a reason.
Right.
But one of the first questions that we have when we bid any job is timeline. Are we able to get competent and qualified numbers with the bidders not knowing what our timeline really is?
Well, we will give them the statutory bidding time frame, and we will tell them, look, you've got so many days, have your bid in here by Tuesday morning at 5 a.m. And then the engineer looks at all of those. I can look at them if I want to, but we use a qualified person to look at them. I don't mean review them. I can open them and look at them. But we used a qualified engineer to look at them to make sure that they are qualified. So if I bid the project to make $50,000 and then somebody else bid $150, an engineer, and another one $175, I don't get it. Because once they look at me and say, you don't have any credentials, then they toss it. They go to the next one.
Okay. I didn't ask my question correctly, Kathy, I'm sorry. Do we know when the project's going to start?
When we bid it and do a contract with a bidder, that's when it starts.
Follow-up question, and I think this is more toward what David is asking. Is part of the bid process, one of the questions should be, how long will this take to complete? Is that more in line of what?
No, you're asking, when do we plan to start work?
Yeah, I mean, duration is important. We'll
Yeah,
wanna know
I'm more worried
how long
about
it'll take.
duration.
But if I'm quoting a job, I'm going to quote it differently if I'm starting it this week, or if I'm quoting, if I'm going to start it, January of next year.
That will come in the formal bid package. They will talk about, what their plan is, how they're going to process it, what their where their anticipated, finish date is. They'll give us all of that in the packet. The only question today was, if we come in low enough, can we go ahead and rebid it and not continue to wait for FEMA so we don't run up against that 250 deadline, the 250 grant deadline in October?
Okay,
That's the
my
only
only question is if we are going to delay this until next month's meeting, specifically look back and make sure that it's very clearly defined in there, that they have to specify how long each project will take. If it's not already in there, add it.
And how long their bid is good for, to David's point.
Yes.
Well,
That
they're
if
all
we don't,
bid.
if we don't start the work until July, prices could be up 5%. And so if I bid something and prices are up 5%, I'm not gonna take it out of my
Which,
profit.
if the informal bid comes back reasonable, that's what we'll do in March, is we need to, we will, as a council, need to say, we would like them to start ASAP and add those questions to the bid packet.
And I think that is part of the process. Once they submit their bids, Amy will look at them. She'll make a recommendation. We'll come back in April and say, we recommend this person based on their qualifications and their price. And within that packet, they should say, they should have that information. Nobody anticipates not to know when they're going to start and how long the project will take because they're given the entire scope. So again, if we wait until next month to make that decision and then we bid it, it's going to be March, April before I can bring it back to you to get it approved, and then they'll be starting in May. Just, the year's just
Second
going on.
that question, but didn't we just say that we're not gonna start it until we know that we have FEMA funds coming in?
Well, and that's why it was important to ask the question, are we going to do repairs regardless of funding source?
I think it depends on, what Kathy's saying is, council will have to decide, if it comes in less than, right now we have 250
Plus
plus
100.
100,000 we put in the bank. If their informal load quote were to come back at 350, would we want to proceed or would we want to wait for FEMA? And we don't know that until we get the informal bid, which is why I said, we don't even need to bother wasting time talking about formal bid, because I don't think it'll be that low, but we just need to wait.
All the other educated guesses we had before this was going to be much higher than that amount, so I don't know why we're deluding ourselves. That magically something might come in lower with the prices of everything going on.
Well, we're deluding ourselves because we had a $39,000 bid and a beautiful job compared to 150 and 225 quotes that we got on the last job. So,
Okay, but we're sitting here arguing about it back and forth. We need to stop, we need to get the low bid, we need to get their formal bid.
I'll let you
Wait till
know.
March.
Okay.
We'll bring it back to the agenda on March.
Okay.
And then we'll resume this conversation.
So if you continue to look behind you at the screen, you can see that all our expenses are falling 60% or below, except for the Public Safety Department, and that's our Union County Sheriff's Office, which we've made 3 out of 4 payments, so it's on target as well. So again, this is what council is expected to stay within these numbers at this level, not on the line level. So the next thing, do you have any questions on the financial report?
Well, the only thing is the thing we moved off the contingency, the budget amendment number 17 is now, when you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I'm going to get there.
Okay.
Just any questions on it? Okay, so the Aston
Yeah,
East.
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
Do we know we invested, what, $1.5 million in the NC Capital Management Trust? Do we know what interest we've accrued since what interest we've earned?
We got $7,000 this month, and if you look on the OSMB at the other income, that 1.5 is simply what we got on the $250,000, where we had $11 up to date last, I think it was about as of the 11th day of February or January, and then we got another 500 and then another 1,000, so we're at 1,500 in other income for the 250, and we're getting about between 7,000 and 8,000 on the full amount in North Carolina Capital Management Trust compared to about 3,200 we were getting before on the 1.5, and then another $2, $3 on the 250,000.
Okay. And then one other question on the P&L expanded sheet. There were like 4 checks that we wrote to the company that's doing the right-of-way maintenance.
I'd have to go back and look specifically what
Do
you're
we
talking
have a
about.
contract with them? Is it Wallace?
The right-of-way, I'll have to go back and look at
The
that.
signs, the guy who's picking up the signs.
We do not have a contract. He just works every other week. He just picks up signs. I can get a contract. Would you like one?
We need one. But I thought it was every other week, and I was wondering why we've written 4 checks over the course of the month.
What are the dates on the checks?
14th, and 28th.
Does it say the service dates on them?
Bingo, that's right, thank you. Okay,
Is it good?
yeah, all good, thank you.
Okay, yes, we do watch that. Code enforcement update. We had one complaint on, I forget the name of the street, Plyler, what's the name of that street? Do you know, right, the one right off of Mayflower, at the end of Mayflower? Anyway, I went, Plymouth, anyway, sorry.
Yes.
Anyway, so it's right there off the end of Mayflower, and the gentleman had 2 tractor trailers, 5 or 6 cars. He had a pile of debris, some appliances. So I sent him 2 letters, and he called me, and I went out he asked me to come out and see him. They were very nice. We talked for a little while, and he has removed, to date, he's removed one of the tractor trailers. It's just the front of them. The other one he works with. He's removed 1 or 2 of the cars. He's made a dump run. I gave him a month to get it all cleaned up. I told him I'd check back in 2 weeks because it was quite a bit of debris. They were very nice and they were very compliant. So that's, any questions? All right. The Black Mountain transition, we are undergoing transition. We started live on the new software February 1st. It is complicated but doable. I have training for 2 hours every day for the month of February, every work day that we have. I'm getting it. It's coming together. It is a phenomenal system, and even I have to admit that I didn't really comprehend the value that it has. So I'm excited about it. Hopefully we'll be up and running. Your new reports will look different, but I'll bring them to you and we'll talk about them, and hopefully you'll get used to them little by little.
Thank you for putting in the time with that. I know those 2 hours a day.
Yeah, it's tiresome. Today it was 3, but it is, I can do it. It's good. Okay, I'm 3 days away from my 2nd year anniversary here. Ooh, me. Okay. All right. And then the dam, let's see. The breach refund, we are in process of getting that back. We should be getting about $44,000 back. We've assembled all of the information. It's going through review now. They have everything they need, and it's looking positive. They were getting a little panicky because of all the changes in government, but they feel confident that we should get that back.
And that is through the emergency preparedness grant.
Mm-hmm. That's what that is, yes. Okay. And then the last thing I'm going to talk to you about is we talked about the roll-ups, that you guys are responsible for the roll-ups. My job, manager's jobs, your park director, manager, and my job is to stay within, he stays within his park numbers. My job is to make sure that we don't go over those roll-up numbers, and the way I manage those roll-up numbers is by sometimes moving these little numbers around. I try to look at numbers that we're not really using, or money I'm not going to use, and I kind of sprinkle it around. So office equipment, we had a nice little balance in there. Amy and I, the first year we were pretty dry, so we sponged up quite a few things, but we've backed off a little bit. So we're a little over halfway through the year, and we still have $4,000 left in office equipment. So some of that I took out a little bit of money and sprinkled it around. Insurance, property and liability, we had a change in that when the park director's title changed. We had credit card use fees. That's charged to us when people pay their bills online. We have a nuisance abatement. We went over just a little bit with that one when we were cleaning up that property. And then, let's see. Yeah, and then we had the building event and update. So we had additional painting and repainting for $65, so it threw us over $5. And then the seminar were the ethics and the clerk course. The ethics was a couple hundred, maybe $300, I think. I thought we were going to get it for a little bit less, and then the clerk course that I attended. The income on the bottom, that ad valorem tax, when I first did the budget, I was modeling what Cheryl had done, and she had a utility ad valorem. When I looked around, I didn't know what it was, but I didn't want to not have it. But it turns out it's just part of our shared utilities, so which is our natural gas, telecommunications, video programming, those shared uses. So I've just moved it basically under the sales tax on electricity franchise, which is the biggest one. It's just a utility franchise. It's just administrative. The top line item is, okay, so we had the emergency dam breach. We went over $7,500. We had the codification services. We had the amended, which is the amended flood ordinance. They originally said that we could do for like $2,000 all the changes we wanted, but that was $2,000 a year forever. So it's a little less expensive just to do $2,000 on the one or two we have and then not have to pay it anymore. Advertising, the breach and the dam RFP, not much of it was really on the breach. It's mostly the dam RFP was a little bit over. So I pulled that out of contingency mostly because the largest of it was the emergency dam breach. And I just need approval on this so we can move forward. The ordinance says that I can move up to $2,000 that we have. So some of this I really don't need approval on, but it is best policy, and I think that I have to put it before you anyway after I do it, just so that you see the changes in the budget.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that it's something that you're allowed to move small amounts of numbers around, but some of this is adding up to $12,000. And I understand most of that is the flood and the breach with the dam. My question from last month's meeting was, are these the same numbers we talked about sitting here 30 days ago, or have these been
No, these are the same.
updated some more?
No, they're the same.
Because I don't remember the dollar amounts that we're talking about today versus the dollar amounts that we were talking about this time last month.
I don't think we talked about them last month. You guys said you needed to see them and you didn't want to make them on the fly, so we didn't talk about them.
Okay, so there's been no alterations in the last 30 days to this?
Mm-mm.
Okay. That was my only question.
All right, so if I can get an approval on that, I'd appreciate it.
Questions, or do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any further questions? All in favor? That we
Just
are
approving that.
these-
Well, I didn't hear that stated out, so.
Oh, okay. A motion to approve the budget amendment worksheet.
Discussion?
Yes.
Could we have a date added to these items, to kind of to Mike's point, that things are going over time, if this is going to be a comprehensive list for the fiscal year, then we kind of have a date of some sort on here to indicate when those changes happen?
Well, this is just from last month. It says approve the motion dated January 13, 25 in the yellow up there. It's been updated for the mayors to sign to February 10th, 25.
So you'll actually make the changes tomorrow?
Yes.
I guess to Laura's question is this going to happen just once a year, every quarter, every month?
This happens whenever we go over a line item. This is just management of the numbers. It's not, I mean, this is a 6-month, when I went back and looked at it, we've had very small changes in the 6 months that we've been working on this. This is just putting it in balance so your managers can manage your numbers and not try to do it in their head. Oh, I've got 500 here and I'm short 300 here, that's net 200. This is just a management tool to keep us within those roll-up numbers that you as council are held to.
Well, I do like the fact that we're knowing about it, sometimes after the fact, but I think to Laura's point, I think it's important to know when it's happening. You just add a column for date.
Yeah, we can mark that after.
It all gets changed at one time.
So if we approve it tonight, she'll change it tomorrow. It says 210 right here. Do you want her to add a line?
Well, actually, to be fair and to be clear, I did make these changes in the last month because we went live on the 1st and I needed everything set to come over. I do move things sometimes under 2,000 per the ordinance that the council approved. Over 2,000, I wait, and then once you approve those, I move them. But these, given where we are in changing this financial software, I moved it.
So y'all want, like, from right here to the left of GL code, you would like a date added?
So, or just be clearer that this budget amendment worksheet is for such a period of time. If the whole list is that way.
It's within the month, ma'am, it is.
Well, that should be on the paper.
So we can say the month of February.
Right, or with date, if it applies to all the line items. The other thing is, I think I would like to see all of this level of detail for the full fiscal year when we go to the budget process.
So we'll know where we were.
So we can do that this year, last year, to
That's
to
smart.
see where money's been.
I have it in my office, and I'll run you a copy of it.
Well,
I had,
during the budgeting process to have a full year.
these numbers are reflected in your adjusted budget at year end. So you,
We'll talk about the budget later. We already got a vote.
So, all in favor? All right. So we'll get the month update or something on there. All right. Any questions for Kathy?
Not so much a question for Kathy, but due to our procedures with public comments and with our council meetings, it doesn't really allow for a lot of dialogue between council and residents that are here. I think it'd be prudent to maybe take just 30 seconds and explain how we handle code enforcement within the village.
You want to go?
Now, I'd rather you.
I mean, I'll just do it real small, real simple. Somebody calls, emails, tells one of us, we put in a complaint, and we forward it to our code enforcement officer. So historically, Wesley Chapel has not been a go out and look for something. We are a town that kind of likes to mind our own business and stay in our lane and not be more government than we have to be. But if somebody calls and makes a complaint, we then try to address it. So if there are ever any houses in your neighborhood or anywhere that you see, you're more than welcome to call. We will start to look at them immediately. And we know that what happens is, if somebody comes in my neighborhood and makes a complaint, then the person I complained against then does make other complaints and the ball keeps rolling. But historically, we've tried not to go out and look for things because we are complaint-based and we're happy to look at to any complaints that we receive.
And one clarification, you have to be a resident of Wesley Chapel to make that complaint, or can it be somebody that's in a donut hole?
Well, if they're anonymous, I don't think we'd know, right?
Right.
Okay. I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure we clarified that.
Yeah, if they're anonymous, I don't think we can, right?
I didn't hear that last sentence. You said, what did you say?
If they were anonymous in their complaint, it wouldn't matter, we would still look into it, yeah. And I've got to give Kathy kudos, there's been so much cleaned up on her watch since she has started that we struggled with for years and years, so I appreciate that, Kathy.
Thank you.
That is a big, there've been a lot of changes on that front, so thank you.
Thank you.
So you can email them to me or Kathy or whatever, any address, and we'll certainly look into it. Any questions for Kathy before we move to mine? Okay. At the last WUA meeting, the very enthusiastic resident, Mr. Joel Down, came and spoke about the Meals on Wheels program that is done by the county commissioner, or by Union County. He presented the numbers that of the people served, and there are quite a few people on the wait list. And the commissioner who spoke about it in the meeting spoke of the lack of funding for it, and that they are going to probably come and ask municipalities to pay to help fill the balance that is on this program. Currently, Wesley Chapel has 8 served, and we have 7 on the wait list, so that's 15 total. I did speak to the commissioner and then to a county manager, and he was appreciative of the help. He did tell me that we could, if council voted to appropriate money, we could very quickly get those remaining 7 residents funded and fed. It is a monthly fluctuation. It depends on what actual service they get, depending on what kind of meals they get. If they get weekly meals or other kinds of meals, it just depends on the service that they receive. They haven't decided how the program is going to be funded next budget year, so what we discussed was appropriating approximately $10,000 to feed these residents for the rest of the year. And then they'll see how they fund it coming July 1st, whether they're asking municipalities to help. He thought it would probably be some sort of interlocal agreement between Union County and Wesley Chapel. He didn't think it would be anything illegal or anything we couldn't do because they had checked before they had talked about it. He didn't think it was a legal issue. And I guess we need to ask George about it because he is here. But when Joel brought me those numbers, I just didn't see how we can spend money on anything else in the town and not take care of the 7 people on that waiting list that need to do that.
One quick question is, if we were to give money, how are we sure that it's going to be going just to the Wesley Chapel residents and not just in the general fund?
Because he said he could bill us based on our use.
Bill us.
Or the interlocal agreement would just be for ours. And I'm sure we could ask for some sort of funding. I made that very clear, that I was happy to pay for Wesley Chapels, but Waxhaw and Weddington and everybody else could step up for theirs. And there are, Joe had the numbers, there are a lot of people. There are, on the waiting list, there are 572 people on the waiting list
Countywide.
for countywide. And I just don't know how we could live with ourselves if we don't take care of those 7 people on the waiting list.
No, but it just reminds me of when my daughter was still in school. She'd go the first day, they sent home a list of supplies that the teachers requested. And the next few days, we'd send those supplies in. And we found out later that half the supplies were going to our sister inner city school, and most of those supplies weren't staying at the school. And that was pretty much the last time I sent supplies in with my daughter. With that kind of mentality in mind, I just wanted to make sure that if we're spending money, that money's going to stay in Wesley Chapel.
Yes. So George, do you see any issues?
I don't, other than the ones you've already identified. I guess there'd be some devil in the details of whatever the interlocal agreement would be, but.
So I am asking council then to appropriate $10,000. I don't know where you get it from, Kathy.
Well, that was going to be my next question, where are we going to pull it?
Well, we can pull it.
And how is that going to create from an accounting perspective, what are you going to call that if we appropriate funds to feed?
Can we just call it interlocal agreement for right now?
I'll put it in the description of what it's for, but I'll find the right place for it. I can't tell you just off the top of my head right now, but I'll find a place for it. And I'll find funding that we're not currently using and pull it, and Mayor and I will work that out.
Joel, anything to add? If I may.
Not
I'm not allowed to call out.
Not really. It was something that was discussed, I believe it was at the beginning of January or middle of January for their county commissioner meeting, where Commissioner Sides is very passionate about this program. And so they were discussing this at the commissioner meeting. And I said, well, I might as well let them know in advance because that's going to be coming down the pipeline. Obviously, you guys have the ability to fund it now through the rest of the year, and then obviously from the next following year and so on and so forth until the council, at their pleasure, decides not to. The county commissioners currently do not necessarily feel very comfortable with fully funding those numbers for the rest of the current fiscal year, but they probably will be discussing it likely on Wednesday at the retreat, which I will be there, so I can let you know. I'll let you know if anything happens with that down there. But other than that, no.
And how does this program differ from WIC or any of the other government subsidies?
David knows.
I can answer that, yeah. My mom, the last 3.5 years of her life, depended or relied on Meals on Wheels. They supply a meal every day, a warm meal that you can go to the center on Johnson Street in Monroe and have it there. Or if they have resources available, they'll deliver to your home. And depending upon the level of the person in need, they can go ahead and package a week's worth of food, non-perishable food that they can use.
It's always,
I huge proponent on Meals on Wheels. I mean, again, it helped my family, it helped me, and there were a number of times that we had to take turns driving to Johnson Street to pick up the package, so I know how understaffed they are and how needy they are. However, there are so many different organizations like Meals on Wheels that are underfunded. My concern is, if we fund this one, how many others are going to be coming and asking for funding too? Whether it be something of this drastic of a need, it is, I mean, again, I'll get choked up talking about my mom, but we relied on that. It was critical for her, but I'm just worried about the precedent we may be setting by saying, okay, we're going to help this one organization. And I feel like that one organization is going to lead to many, many, many others. I mean, it's apples and oranges, but it's really not. I mean, on paper, WCWAA is a nonprofit. I'll debate that, but they've asked many times for help. And if you look at just if you're selfish and look at just the economical impact that WCWA has on Wesley Chapel, that's huge. But then if you look at the impact that it has on children, I mean, all 6 of my kids went through WCWA. Huge, and I would love to support that. But I'm just worried about opening that door.
Well, and another thing, a lot of Meals on Wheels are volunteer people doing the deliveries, right? So it's not paid staff to make a lot of those deliveries and everything else. And kind of to David's point is, if this is something the county was funding, understanding what the county is funding for residents and supporting the county's funding of those things, to me is a little different than everybody that comes in the door is a nonprofit looking for money. It's like we are trying to do our local part to support those things through the county. I don't know what else might be in the bucket that they're giving money to. I doubt it very much. But I mean, I do feel like that this is something we have to support. We pay for a dam, we can pay for food.
We can do it in the park. Maybe it's something that we need to consider, David, for the next budget year. If there are considerable needs in our community, do we want to add a line and have a community grant process where we do give out X amount of money? I know other towns have done that. But it might be something that we need to think about. Because things aren't, we'll see how the economy goes, but right now people are still struggling to pay their grocery bills. So
So the question will be, will this be a one-time payment and we'll reassess?
July 1st, or the budget planning process.
Also, we're only going through the end of
Fiscal year.
Ooh, okay, so I thought this was for a calendar year.
It's just for February,
Oh,
March, April, May, June.
May I add some comments real quickly?
Sure.
Just for the record, I would like to state that I'm not necessarily a proponent of this necessarily. I'm not necessarily against it, but I'm neutral on it. I just want to inform you. One of the things that the county commissioners did have a sort of struggle with, as Mr. Side was very eager to fund it immediately, some of the other commissioners expressed their concern because it could cause people to feel reliance on it, and once you fund one thing at one point, it's very hard to end that. Obviously, it's a government entity. So I could see there being some concern there that they had when it comes to that. So just to bring that up as well.
Well, I think that's the case everywhere.
Oh, yes.
Once you start something,
Absolutely.
it's always
Yes.
important to
Yes.
follow that.
Yes.
I was thankful Joe brought us a need in our community and wanted to bring it to council and ask that we take care of this need. So what I'm asking, and you can not do it if you don't want to, but to appropriate $10,000, we'll find it in our budget, and let us enter into an interlocal agreement to get these 7 people off of our wait list.
So the 8 will continue to be served by the county? We're just dealing with the 7? I think it's a great idea. I mean, I understand there is concern. But, who's to say they won't come in and anyway, and, we would consider it and look at it, and we might find other organizations that are equally as deserving. But we may not, you know, and if they haven't come to us before now.
Motion to approve appropriation of $10,000 to support an interlocal agreement with Union County for Meals on Wheels funding of Wesley Chapel residents and for the mayor and clerk to determine the appropriate place to pull those funds from.
Board, would you amend that motion for a one-time payment of?
One-time payment of.
Thank you.
I don't know that it won't, they'll probably bill us on like a monthly basis. I don't think it'll be
Total not to exceed $10,000.
I just don't want it to automatically carry over to the next fiscal year. I'd like to use this as a test.
I'm just impressed at all that you said. Wow.
She thought about it.
Gee, that's cool.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I would like for us to consider, when we put together next year's budget, to include a benevolence type
Oh, that's good.
account. And we could just park that in there and
Yes,
you know, use it as needs arise.
All in favor? Thank you, council. Thank you for
Joel,
bringing that
brought
forward.
it to us.
May I ask, who made the motion and seconded it?
Motion.
Bailey?
Second.
Thank you.
Next thing for me is the volunteer appreciation dinner. Same place as last year. It could either be March 31st or April the 7th. Who has a preference?
March 31st or April.
Or April the 7th?
April the 2nd. And this is at the Buzz?
At the Buzz, yes. But once I get a date, I can send out invitations to our planning board, board of adjustment staff, newly formed events committee. Any preference?
Are Wednesday nights usually a problem for people with church?
This is Monday.
Monday nights. What calendar are you looking at?
April 2nd?
So,
7th, I think you said 2nd, I'm so sorry.
It's either March, what did I say, March 31st or April 7th. Those are the days he can do it because he doesn't want to open the rest, open to the public.
He's closed those days normally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that way we can have it to ourselves.
I mean, April would give people more time, but I don't know, it's not that much difference really.
I'm out of town on the 7th, just.
Oh, okay.
So March 31st?
That would be just
Okay.
my preference.
I will try to get that, save the date out to everyone as soon as possible, not today, but
Done.
tomorrow maybe.
Do we have a time?
Done. You can lower it.
I can't remember if it was 6:30 or 7 last year.
It was at 7. It was 6:30. Because we were there pretty long.
I can probably find it real quick. It was. I don't know, but I think, same time as last year, with everybody, I just can't remember what it was.
Remember the date?
March 5th last year.
Yeah.
You type in volunteer appreciation.
The year before.
It was 6 p.m.
6:30.
6, I've got 6. Last year.
Arrival at 6, dinner at 6:30.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Here it is.
It was the 4th of March.
Yeah, y'all, last year was doors open at 6:30, dinner at 7.
Okay.
So what is it this year?
I don't care, whichever, which do y'all like?
6:30, dinner at 7, sounds good to me.
That good? So, doors open at 6:30, dinner at 7. Mike motions approval of the volunteer appreciation dinner.
Second.
All in favor? All right. The next thing we talked about is we haven't done a retreat or a advance, and we did just do the survey, but we had talked about a cookout with council, an informal event to have hamburgers or hot dogs here at Town Hall and have it be open to the public. Before, I did reach out to a couple food vendors, they definitely have minimums that I don't think would be hard to hit. But I really kind of needed when the council would like to do this. I don't know if we would want to, like, day of the week, time. When is the next movie night?
Our next event is the.
Is the spring play?
Is the spring play, which is on the 3rd
So,
of May.
I like the idea of pairing it with the movie night.
doing it prior. Cook out with council before the movie night. But
Do you-
spring,
Do you want to bring it, since the next item is the park and then the events and programs, do you want to discuss all this
we
together?
can,
Do
yeah.
you want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just one comment, when we used to do the retreat, and then we did a volunteer appreciation dinner because we said
It was everybody.
to replace the retreat, because we had just done the survey, again, we've just done a survey, so we had taken those funds for the retreat to do a volunteer dinner, now we're adding, essentially going to double what we're planning to spend for this type of thing. So I'm just pointing that out.
Well, this year we're probably lucky enough that we can take it out of some park budget, because there's no event.
Schedule us through.
Like, what the next year, again, the point of we started from stop it.
And we don't have to do it. It was just a way to try to give residents an opportunity to speak with their elected officials.
Yeah, I was just pointing out how we had discussed the funding and the rationale before.
All right, do you want me to start with the park stuff, the event stuff first, or do you want me to start where I was going to start?
Well, let me just say, I told John he did not have to come tonight because there were no big updates. And he did say that he was expecting 2 more quotes on the town hall equipment today because we want to get that spent by the end of the fiscal year. And then that gets us to the events.
Yes, before we get away from the tech stuff, I did meet with the gentleman here. Mr. Lepke had some family emergencies, so he could not be here. The gentleman said that he would have got Mr. Lepke the quote by today. Obviously, Mr. Lepke's not here, so that's probably why we don't have that. Obviously, good evening, everyone. Obviously, I've already been talking to you. But unfortunately, we did not have a quorum at our last meeting, so we didn't have a meeting, unfortunately. And obviously, Ms. LaCroix, as was previously noted, is not here during the discussion of the minutes, as one of her sons is sick, unfortunately. Otherwise, we would have a bit more from the site plan and whatnot for that event that would be discussed in a moment. First, I would like to follow up on the initially discussed multiple months ago, the UNC School of Government class that was discussed by Ms. Bailey initially. Over the past week or so, I've emailed multiple people that are in connection with the class that are listed on the online page, and called the one gentleman's office twice today to see if I could reach him. And unfortunately, he was not available, and I have yet to receive a response from any of them. I will let you know that some of the questions that I didn't ask include what time the class starts on the 7th. Obviously, I believe it was a Wednesday, and a quite inconvenient time for most people. I also asked if we could get a recording of the class that would be available, and how long that class would be available for, if it was to be recorded, like a week, a month, or how long. And if all the members of the committee would have to be signed up, or if we could just have like myself or Amy just sign up and then be able to send that recording out to everyone else. If you would like me to add any other questions in a follow-up email, I can definitely do that for you guys. You could just email me. My email should be on the website, or I can provide it to you otherwise. Moving on to the events. Yes.
One question on the class.
Yes, absolutely.
Is the intent to have one person who's the resident expert, or is it to try to get everybody involved on the committee?
I believe that Ms. Bailey's intent was to have us all go through the class so we can all learn at the same time. I think it would probably also be good.
Especially if it was free.
Yeah, it costs nothing. Yes. So.
General education purposes.
Yes. Any other further questions on this?
Just one
Moving on to the topic of events, I was informed by Ms. Queen today, as I noticed on the agenda, that there was a motion initially for approval of, and still is approval of the event. And I thought that this had already been approved, but after looking back at the minutes today, December, they were not technically approved. So they do need to be approved. That's why you have a list in front of you with all the lists of the events that we have scheduled and the days that we have scheduled, with the alternates also on there.
The only thing we don't have on there are the new events, right?
Is the what?
The community conversations, that's where you were referring to?
The community conversations or the ones we scheduled with the soil and water.
Correct. I was going to be bringing up those in the next couple of months for sure.
Okay.
Because first of all, the community conversations has not been scheduled. Amy is obviously out of town, so I haven't heard back from her. As I did, for you guys' information, I did let her know to email a couple of different groups. Let's see, that's on my notes here. The first four were the Wesley Chapel Fire Chief, the Council on Aging, and the Master Gardeners, and then finally Mr. Bjorn Hansen, which we would try to do to flex with his schedule in one of the upcoming months. And this was discussed between the mayor and I think it was maybe Kathy or something like that. I'm trying to remember who it was. Or maybe it was Amy. That's what it was that we discussed this with. And the thought was to have those starting in March or April, well, to see what the committee gets through and who we have that has responded to Amy. But starting in March or April on the first Wednesday of the month, that's what appeared to be the best for schedule for that. So I will be back next month with a update on those for you as well. And then I can bring up those dates as well for the Water and Soil Conservation District folks that they have proposed having some events. I think it was bi-weekly throughout the summer at the park or here possibly. And so I'll be able to provide some more details on that for you next month. And yes, also our next meeting obviously is hopefully, assuming that we have a quorum, is going to be the 27th, which is following after WUMA, so you can join us for both meetings. I'll double up on that day. And just to close out, I just need approval to approve the proposed events as presented.
You're asking us to approve the Spring Flame, the car show, the Fall Bash, and Cocoa and Carols.
Yes, ma'am.
And for all of these events, have you already secured parking, cooperation with Southbrook?
So none of these events are going to be, I assumed, are not going to be at the park. The first two events we already have.
Never mind.
Okay, no problem. You're fine.
So used to doing that.
It's okay. You're good.
No.
I will let you know that for the last two, this was discussed with the mayor and I previously, is trying to work with some of the local churches for the last two events, unless by some miraculous thing the dam becomes available at a sooner time.
Normal years, sorry.
It's okay. No, you're fine.
Jill, I thought we weren't going to do anything else in the summer because of the heat, because last year we had on the 25th event, we had volunteers falling left and right.
So if I recall from last meeting, it was discussed that the time of the car show would be in the morning, so that the heat would not be as impactful to people as I believe it was last month, or maybe it was December, if I recall. Because that weekend is Father's Day, if I remember correctly, on the calendar, and so that's why we proposed that date on there.
Julie, I want to also point out to council that these are already budgeted and funded based
Yes.
on the current budget schedule.
Yes, sir. Obviously, that would only go through the June events, of course. And obviously, we had less because we didn't do anything in the winter or anything like that, because we were just being formed and things like that, so.
Any other
So do we
questions?
have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Joel, just be sure to add to your agenda for the next committee meeting, council's request to piggyback on one of their events, what are we calling it? Informal discussion with council?
Cookout with council.
Cookout with council. That can be part of a movie night or.
I think that's a good idea to have it moving on. Do it all at one time.
Now, I do know on that event that Ms. LaCroix has been trying to get some
Yes, so
vendors and
probably
whatnot.
spring
So it could be there because she hasn't secured anything at this time. Since we haven't, unfortunately, we didn't have a meeting, so we couldn't discuss a specific time for that event. So we will, at this next meeting, we will work on that, and then I can let you know, obviously, Mr. Como, you'll probably be there, so I'll probably see you then. But yes, I'll let you all know next time what we find out. So, anything else?
Question, last month there was some discussion about social media, you guys use that to be more, I guess, interactive with residents.
Yes.
Have you made any progress on that?
Unfortunately, one of my repeating things is that we didn't have a meeting, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It was discussed a little bit with Mr. Corey, who was there last month, and maybe a little bit of just kind of the baseline of what we were looking to do, but nothing firm or concrete as we didn't have enough or anything like that. So I'll definitely have an update for you, assuming that we have a meeting at the end of this month.
And then one other question pertaining to the part of the Amateur Radio Society. The event was end of January.
Yes,
Did it go on?
it did, it went very well. I was there for both days. We made contacts in Florida, Brazil, Germany, Maine, Michigan, California. It was literally all over the globe. And we had a lot of people come up to the tent wanting to know what was being done. And we had, as long as there was a licensed ham operator to sit next to them, they had a few people sit down and call out and see what kind of contacts they could make. And they told them exactly what to say. And we thought we were going to have a Boy Scout troop join us, but they didn't turn up showing up. But we had a lot of people interested as far as what the big antenna was and
It was
how we
cold
were.
too.
It was cool, and yes, they did say somebody else showed up while I stepped away for a while. But yeah, it was a very good event. I think they'd like to maybe continue, call it ham radio in the park, POTUS. And it just gets a lot more community involvement than doing it in the parking lot of the church, which is where they normally were doing it. And it's more interaction from the community.
One last question, we're expecting to have AV quotes next month.
Yes, as far as I'm aware, we should have one by XL Media Works was the one company that Weddington was using. Do you have that quote by chance? No.
No.
Okay, I didn't know if you were on it now. But yes, the gentleman said that he would be able to have the quote by today, and that he would be sending it to Mr. Lepke. Unfortunately, he is not here right now. So yes, I would assume that we would have at least one by next month. Yes, sir.
We want to get that done by the end of the fiscal year.
Absolutely. Of course, it is something that I would want to be done as soon as I can be done. Yes.
Who's the main contact with the vendor on this issue?
John?
Yes. That's correct.
Kathy, would you reach out to John, make sure he knows that this has to be complete by the end of the fiscal year?
Oh, I told him, he's good.
All right,
I reminded him.
as long as he knows, I don't want to get the can down the road too long and then all of a sudden we don't have anything spent on this.
And Joel, I'm still available to help with the community conversation.
Okay, we'll do. Yes.
I know you've got a lot on your plate, so,
Yes.
yeah.
And then college classes, so it's always
Good
exciting.
job.
Yeah, and a job. And then go to all these meetings, I had 3 last week and 3 this week, so it's just a start.
That's crazy.
Thank you, John.
I enjoy going to those, so anyway. Yep, you're welcome.
All right, so that brings us to our planning department. You have 3 lovely items on your agenda.
Stormwater ordinance revisions update. We also did not have a planning board meeting because of quorum. So we will be taking that to planning board this month, which will hopefully then become, hopefully they will recommend approval. And that will then come to y'all in March to set the date for the public hearing, which would be in April.
You said you didn't have a quorum. How many alternates do we have currently on the planning board? Filled alternate seats.
I believe it's 3.
They're phenomenal.
They're all
There are 8
Yeah.
people,
It was
5 on
the
the
perfect
council.
storm of flu and surgery.
Surgery,
and sick
big-
parent. It
yeah.
was
Okay. Is Is that, it's very
It's
unusual
very unusual.
to not have a quorum at a planning
Yes.
board meeting,
Yeah,
given that we have the 3 alternates that usually
Yeah.
show.
yeah, like the mayor said, it was a perfect storm of everything that happened that night. We have, Labella is here to give us an update on our flood study on Mayflower Trail. I'll hand it over to them.
Thank you for your patience.
Oh, of course. My name is Bob Wilson. I'm with Lavella Associates. And so far on the Mayflower Trail, we have assembled the floodway models that were existing from the state. We've gathered a lot of existing data. We've done a few cursory runs, just kind of playing with it to drop in the house to see what kind of issues. We can't get a no-rise, which is the target. However, we talked to the state.
Clarify, no rise to the council.
Yeah, a no-rise, when you do, if you have an encroachment in a floodplain or floodway, you have to do a study to prove that you get a no-rise. And the way they define a no-rise is basically no change in the flood elevations. And no change is measured to 100th of a foot, which is basically 1/8 of an inch, which is a pretty kind of ridiculous standard, but that's the standard that's there. The models will predict it to that, and that's the criteria we have to meet. So I've talked with Terry Fox, who's the floodplain hazard mitigation planner for the western part of North Carolina. And so first he says you got to do a no-rise, can't do anything else. You can't really do a letter of map revision. But he talked to his boss, he got back to me. And so what we're going to do is we're going to proceed with things we can do. Look at before this was developed, it was a wooded area when the original study was done. Now it's a grassy yard with a house there. And so we will do what I would call appropriate modeling adjustments to see if we can get as close as we can to a no-rise. I don't know that we'll get all the way there, but I did get him to concede that do the best you can, and then let's talk about it. So what we will be doing over the coming month, so the next couple of weeks, we'll be getting some of the field survey crew out there gathering that data. Because so far we've just been dealing with what's the existing mapping data, existing model. So we need real ground survey to show exactly where this encroachment is. Then we'll do some modeling. We probably won't be able to report to you next month because my goal is hopefully to be done and start some interaction informally with the state. Because ultimately we'll have to do a formal submittal, which will be all this documentation, all this paperwork. They kind of want to work with us to kind of see where we are and see if there's some things we can agree on going forward. So that's kind of where we are to study at this point.
Other than working with our planning and zoning department, is there any ask of council?
No, sir. It's just an update.
Appreciate that.
Have you spoken with the homeowner?
We have not, but we will be, because before we send the survey crew out there, we'll definitely let them know.
What you've done so far, no rise, how much of a rise have you?
So far, we're doing nothing, just basically, what happens is in the model they have a cross-section along the creek every so often, but there's not one where the house is. So we dropped a couple in where the house is, just based on what we can gather from the available Union County data that's there. And we're looking around 0.6 of a foot, okay? Doesn't sound like much to any of us, but it's out of what's acceptable. So we think, we're just playing around so we can get that down quite a bit, probably closer to 0.1 of a foot, at least that's what we hope. They want us to get closer than that, but the one I'm dealing with, I don't think has much experience as his boss. So I'm a little long in the tooth myself, as you know, so I think there's some things we can work with and get this going. But it's a mess, so it'll be a process to clean it up.
For those of you that don't know, Jamie is no longer with LaBelle, and
That's
Bob
right.
is our new contact. So
But I've worked with Danny for decades.
you're familiar with our headaches.
I'm becoming more and more familiar with it.
I send a lot of emails.
Well, this is certainly a large one, so thank you.
Yeah. Any questions or anything? Again, this is just an update, so you'll have to rely on some few notes or whatever. I'm here for any questions you have. Thank you.
Next Jason, we won't make you sit through all this.
That's fine. My allergy meds is starting to wear off, so.
So, Emily, you're still on deck?
Yes.
With the P&G easement,
P&G is on hold. I haven't issued any permits yet. Their internal project team is working, officially is what they said, was they were gathering additional information about alternatives concerning work that is part of the project. So they are talking to the neighbors, sorry, I forgot which side of them. They're talking to the neighbors and trying to figure out, I mean, they're not going to move the pipeline, but they're trying to figure out what they can do, some concessions.
I reached out and told them how bereft we were about our trees and all the trees and our neighbor being upset. So she responded back, they're considering alternatives, so.
And we are holding off on issuing anything until there's some resolve, something's resolved.
Well, I asked Emily, and she didn't know. Does anybody know why all those bright ribbons are on 200 trees down on? Yeah.
I saw that tonight.
Where?
Beside what's the name of that? Is it?
I was assuming it was for that neighborhood that's going to be there on both sides of the road. Is that not the case, Emily?
I'm gonna have to look, because as we were talking, I mean, it's not something like when the utility company comes out and it's a definite, said, the red lines mean this, so we need, I'll find out.
Yeah, the white ribbon.
So nothing's
You know
been
what we're talking
submitted.
about, Emily?
What?
Do you know what we're talking about?
Faith. If I can get a little bit more information.
Try to remember the name of that neighborhood. Let's go in there now.
It's that
It's the conservation subdivision that it's going to be on both sides of the road.
Oh, okay, yes, I know what you're talking
It's located where that is.
Right.
about. Yes, okay. Aurora pricing.
Aurora something.
Yes.
And he was talking about how they're going to not do a lot of tree tearing down, so.
Because it clear cut it before.
Yeah, but there's still a ton of trees around that perimeter.
I'll just email them.
Yeah.
I know.
You should point out we have a council person who is a very big believer of saving trees.
Yes.
And I don't want to have to sit her on it.
She will chain herself to the wooden.
Tell them what you're
No, you're not.
Right. Any more questions for Emily? All right, that brings us to our infrastructure development projects. For the commercial center, you'll see, I just noticed the lovely orange fencing that was not there and now is there. So,
Yeah.
you want to speak to it, Emily?
We've issued the zoning permit, so that's what you see is they're building it.
And that's for the medical office
The
building.
medical office building, yes. Engineering is reviewing the stormwater basin designs that they have submitted. We had a brief discussion beforehand. I'm going to get back in touch with Aston tomorrow. Well, Bob's going to get back in touch with Aston tomorrow to sort of let him know a few little details. Did you want to say anything about?
I can.
Okay.
Basically, we don't have a problem with concept. We want to make sure the village was okay with this on their property when we responded. So,
When we talked about that, I told him that we had talked about that. In theory, we are okay. That we want to have the shared stormwater drainage, so that he wanted to make sure about that first before he went anywhere else with that.
So we did talk about it in closed session, and we talked about with George selling them that section, so we didn't have to worry about an agreement in perpetuity, or the possibility of doing an agreement. But didn't we lean towards selling them that part?
That's the way I remember it.
Yeah, so we didn't have to worry about a headache just selling them. Because they were going to have their surveyor come out, right?
Yes, and they
And
did.
tell us,
And that's the plans that they have submitted and that they're looking at. It's not full detailed engineering plans, but they did have them come out there and look at it as far as topography and to give them a general set of plans to be able to look at.
And how would that, I mean, how would that work, George, if we were gonna sell them part of that property to put their stormwater on?
I mean, I think, well, there's a number of ways it could work, but you could privately negotiate a deal with them, and then you'd have to advertise it, through the sale statutes, giving people the opportunity to bid to purchase it.
What's the advantage of sale versus just giving an easement?
Because then whatever activity happens on it doesn't impact you all at all from a liability or legal standpoint, because you don't have any control over it. That's not necessarily the only way to go, it's just a benefit to that avenue.
And I thought we had communicated that clearly to them.
They
But
don't seem to, nothing seems to have been addressed on all the plans, or just
So
showing our
Bobby,
property line.
you are welcome to say, the village is under the impression you'll be purchasing this land for your
I'll put that as a condition. How about that?
And if that's not their intention, then we need to
Yeah, I mean,
have some conversations.
well, it's a tremendous value to them, because if they had to build this on their property,
Well,
they
that was
would
the,
either have to significantly reduce their development, or they have to put it underground at 4 or 5 times the cost.
and that was what I thought the whole negotiation with them was, like,
It was.
we'll work with you so you don't have that expense. But then we had a meeting with George and we decided they bought it, it's not our headache.
But we still have to give them access. Are they gonna have any access issues?
Not if it's that backland, it'll be attached to
It's
their
back.
land.
Yeah.
There'll be no access to that back, just taking a whole, I mean, it's between the sewer right easement back there and the shopping center itself, it's all going to
It'll be that one
be,
or board.
and it'll be a drop off, it'll be a drop section.
So you are welcome to communicate that.
Okay. So,
Thank you, you're welcome for that fund.
and I think,
Any other questions about the commercial center? So once we get that worked out, then we'll be starting on Publix, is my understanding.
So
right?
we're back to trying to sell them this.
Like they already wanted to be digging ground.
Once they get the stormwater
Gotcha.
issue resolved, good.
Yeah.
Have,
Yes, because public,
Have we notified any of the neighboring, either the people that rent here or any of the neighboring properties?
I would be asked to shop.
It's a sale.
yeah.
Do we need to?
For development, it's their by right, so I would think so.
Are we talking about the initial land, that triangular land that they said would take too long if we tried to sell it to them, that same land?
Yes, from not
Okay.
this.
That's the one that somebody said would take too long if we tried to sell it to them. Is
I think that was if we sold them all of it.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So keep us posted.
okay,
Highway 84 widening, you got something?
No.
Oh, okay.
Say nothing, that was the, yeah,
I was gonna get excited.
sorry, no.
I have a question about it from a planner perspective. All this fiber internet cable that they're laying right on the road, will that be impacted when they have to relocate that when they do utility relocation for widening roads?
I mean, hopefully that they put it in an area that wouldn't have to be.
They're that far off the road.
Well, I know, that's what I'm like,
They're all-
that's why I say hopefully, but probably,
You can?
it depends,
Okay.
yeah.
it really depends on what the widening plans are and what kind of conflicts there may be.
Yeah, I remember at the intersection right there by Butch Flyler's house, they put a new water main in right when they were originally planning on widening the road. And Bill Dustin at the time was our planning and zoning. And I said, do we need to contact and let them know to put it back far enough where it won't be something they have to do twice? And he contacted them, he said, if the road gets expanded, the road gets expanded. And they factor that into the equation of the construction work. That's why you have the easement and then the temporary construction easement, which, brings everything back. And it'll just be torn up and have to be redone. They factor that in. It doesn't make sense, but that's the way they do it.
Generally, the way it works, if you're in NCDOT's right of way, you're there with their permission. And if they widen and you need to move, then you have to move. And they provide a place for you. But the way they look at it is, this is our right of way. If you want to be here, if we tell you to move, you can move 100% at your expense. So if they have to move, you probably look at more, a lot of it's probably installed either by directional drilling or trenching. And that's probably how they do any, if they have to do any relocation. I'm not saying they will, really depends on where those lines fall relative to any future drainage systems or other utilities.
Correct. But to clarify, if they only wanted to do that work once, they would have to push it back so far that they would no longer be in the easement.
That's right, there's no longer, and then they do private property. See, if the utilities get their own easements, then if the state widens, then the state pays the utility to relocate.
Right.
If they're in the state's easement or right of way, then they have to pay to relocate themselves because they're getting used to the right of way free of charge.
Right, as long as we don't have to pay.
You won't have to pay.
No.
Thank you, Bob. DOT projects, roundabout, to my knowledge, is still underway. Highway 84 improvements still haven't.
Is DOT being affected in any way, shape, or form with the federal grant stoppage?
We had our TCC meeting and we were still moving money.
I know a lot of that from the DOT is affected by the federal and state funding, and if that's being reassessed, would be a good word, it's going to affect any of those projects.
Absolutely, but
As of now, no.
as of now, no. It was as usual types of discussions at the CRTPA meeting. Let's see, so the roundabout at Wesley Chapel and Potter Road, utility relocations are underway. This is all just from DOT's information. 84 in Potter, it said that that DOT is currently working on scope development and design firm fees. We also have on our agenda for the TCC in March to recommend for the fall, 2024 fall discretionary funds to amend to add more money into that project. So that will be going to TCC in March for a recommendation to send to the board. So as you said, everything seems to still be going along per usual. And then for the developer lane at Newtown and Cuthbertson, I talked to Bjorn and he said that the developer had submitted the plans to DOT and it's still sitting at DOT.
Well, my question is specifically, that was a condition of them developing phase 3 of their project. And the county originally said that they would be holding occupancy permits on phase 3 if that work had not been completed. Can we confirm with the county that that is still the case, or are they going to let it slide?
I will confirm with the county.
Yes.
What Bjorn said last time he was here was that, yeah, they talked about it, they didn't get documented that way.
No, the problem was initially it was supposed to be a condition of them issuing certificates of occupancy, and then they said no, the clarification was on phase 3. Phase 1 and phase 2, I think,
They're
are
already
complete.
done, yeah.
And I know they're building phase 3, but they're not going to be, hoping to, as a way to hold them to it, is they're not giving certificates of occupancy to residents in phase 3 until that work is complete. Not started, not planned, not submitted, complete.
But I'll confirm. That was, I talked to him at the TCC meeting and he was telling me about, where the plans were, and I didn't ask him about the CO part.
Originally, we were told that was work was going to be done before they built, when they started building. Then we were told before they got certificates of occupancy and people started living there. Then we were clarified that it was only on phase 3, and I know they're building phase 3.
Okay.
And the developer didn't get off his backside until we reminded them of that. And here we are another, 8 8 months later or more than that, and I know the buildings are being built
Yeah.
in phase 3. The question is the county going to submit the proper permits?
Yep.
So,
Do you know if that when they're gonna do the lights at Chamwood and Potter? I mean, they're still sitting there with black covers all over them. I mean, they've been there for how many months now?
Actually, black covers have blown off, I think.
one of them is, yeah, it's through there today.
I can ask DOT if you want.
Yeah, I was gonna write myself in, I can,
Are you gonna ask
I'll,
him?
yeah.
I haven't pestered Sean lately, it's sometimes fun. All right, so those are our updates on those, and any questions for Emily about anything?
No, but on this topic, so last month in December, when we had a number of residents here, we were talking about McCoy Farms and the fact that they would have right out and have to put in a barrier island on Wesley Chapel Stouch Road. And as they started the clearing and all down that way and where he indicated the roundabout would go to and thinking about that, it roughly looks like there is the possibility of impacting neighbors on the other street being able to come out and make a left turn. Is there a way that we can get some formality around confirming that no existing properties on Wesley Chapel Stouts will be adversely impacted by that island? Because it would be rough if you lived there for 30 years and suddenly they put an island in there and you can't make a left turn.
Okay.
I think, didn't we look at that on the map when
But we
it was
talked
originally
about it
proposed?
roughly, but I'm watching where they're clearing and thinking about where that McCoy entrance would be, because it was it didn't really show the properties across the street.
Yeah, I specifically looked at that because I remember when we saw that map, and that was one of my concerns. And I think they've already clarified that unless the plans have changed.
Right. But I would just like confirmation that we are not going to impact neighbors across the street.
Just ask them if there's been any updates or changes to that design.
Because as they clear and start moving stuff, it just really starts looking real different.
All right. If nothing else, it's council comment time, and we can get out not too before 9 o'clock.
I'd like to commend Miranda for this, for getting us out before 9 o'clock.
All right. Who wants to go first?
I did, that was me.
Oh, that was you. Deb, Jeff, next.
Last night they had a huge ball game, and the true MVP of that ball game was Taylor Swift. And tonight's quote comes from Taylor Swift. She said once, "Choose joy, even when it's hard." But Mondays are a pain for me. I leave my house a little before 5, have meetings from 7 until the time we finish up with finances, with pre-construction, with project management. They're a pain. But whenever I turned in and I saw the orange netting out here, I smiled. I had joy because I'm so happy that we have some momentum and some progress going on with finishing out the shopping center.
Why did they boo her?
Because she supported Kansas City. There were more Eagles fans there than Kansas City.
I thought it was because she broke off with her boyfriend.
No, they're still dating.
No.
No, they said they're done.
As I read in one article was, Philly boos at anybody who doesn't root for them.
They booed Santa Claus once.
Yes.
That's just Philly.
All right, that's 2.
Pass.
Yeah.
Just you.
Thank you for your support and feeding our residents. I appreciate that.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Good night.
Good night.
I got a question for you.
Yeah, they were here last month. Yeah. So I was here. Yeah. The mayor and me were planning on having a meeting with David and all the taxes. Yeah. Oh, yeah, they came in, I remember. Yeah, if we want to, I was sad because he wasn't here when I gave you my report last month. I was like, oh, come on, really?
Yeah, this is where this goes, that's the question.
That's what you have to do.